So hello everybody. Hope everyone's having a good week. So I just wanted to pick up where I left off. This is part 2 of chapter 10. And just again as a reminder, there's no class tonight. I hope everyone by now has got the message. I sent several emails. So we go over here and there's a couple useful terms that we should know. And again, I have one highlighted in red here, right? And it's called net present value. Something you should all be familiar with if you took 330 or 365 or some other finance course. And it's just the present value of a set of future flows plus the current undiscounted flow. I have to have a sip of my coffee. All right, so a required cash, right? Amount of cash needed to cover events day to day, right? And this is important. It's like you every day have to cover your day to day, operations. You have to have lunch, you have to have breakfast, you have to put gas in the car, right? And surplus cash is after you pay all your required cash and all operating expenses and reinvestments are made. So this is after you pay your bills, right? And you have lunch money and you go food shopping like in real life, right? All right, so let's see. All right, so required cash, as I said, is the amount of cash needed to cover day-to-day operations, and they have the same terms twice. Cash remaining after required cash. All operating expenses and reinvestments are made. So here's a typical example, right, of from table 10.1, how much surplus cash you have left. All right, so there's a couple dividend approaches to valuing equity, okay, and this one's called the pseudo dividend approach. So project PDC, after 5 years, right, assumes that it has a surplus cash, and it plugs the balance sheet, and it, catches all that remaining cash, and they calculate the pseudo dividends by making sure that the required investments in the working capital do not include surplus cash. So they want to make sure that doesn't include the surplus cash. And then they discount the dividends to get a value for the ventures, how much equity the company owns. So here's the simple equation how they do it. It's net income plus depreciation and amortization expenses minus change in net operating working capital minus capital expenditures plus net debt issues. So here's an example of that, right? Exclude surplus cash. So here's the net operating working capital, and they show you here's the current assets, and here's the surplus cash, and here's the current liability. So here's the balance sheet current assets, the balance sheet current liabilities. And you see here, here's the 967 and minus the surplus cash. See, they don't include the surplus cash. And here is the current liabilities. So basically, this is you're basically in a hole by this amount because they're not including the surplus cash. You see, they subtract that off. And here that is again shown right here. So they're showing where they get the surplus cash from, right? Here's the net income. So here's that 6487, which is shown right here. And here they're just simply showing you the items that make up how they get that. And here's the project projected over 5 years. You should have on your final presentation, your business plan. You should go out 5 years. You should have a long-term 5-year plan. And here's the balance sheet. Here's the surplus cash plug that we talked about. Here's the 6487, right? All right. So here is the net operating working capital calculations. They show you all the calculations here. There's a lot of data here. Don't get too hung up on all this data here. This is just how they calculate it. So there's just a bunch of tables here. And here's a statement of cash flows. So that's basically about it. All right, so these last couple of slides are not that important, but I just wanted to finish up chapter 10. The more important stuff is, I'll show you the real important stuff is this, the items here, these definitions, right? Required cash and surplus cash and net present value, and right, and the pre-money and post-money valuation. And here's the brew pub we talked about on part 1 example, how to get this this cash flow right here. And here's the equation. So you should go over this brew pub example carefully. Alrighty, so that's about it. I hope everyone has a good day today, and I have to attend the conference today, so I'll be there all day. So take care, everybody.